everyone, and welcome back to the Daily Dose. It's back to school week, and today we're talking about how we get to know our teacher. I got to tell you something about me, and honestly, it's a little embarrassing, but I consider myself a product of the church's best hopes and dreams. Listen, I grew up within the church my whole life. My family hardly ever missed a Sunday in worship. I spent all my Sundays in Sunday school and in the fellowship hall, and of course in worship with my family, where I would stand on the pew so I could be as tall as my mom while we sang the hymns. It's where I first learned to read music. It's where I would listen to stories. That's what I called the sermon, stories. And it's where I first heard the message of the gospel of Jesus Christ. Although as a child, I didn't really understand what I was hearing and what I was participating in, but of course it helped form me. And then I went on to continue in confirmation. I was confirmed. And then after confirmation, I stayed in the church. I helped out in a worship team where I would sing and play the piano and help lead worship almost every Sunday. I ended up going to an ELCA, college, Concordia, and Moorhead, Roll Cobbs. And then I ended up working full-time for the church at Luther Crest Bible Camp and then at Calvary Lutheran Church. And then I ended up going to seminary where I am studying to become a pastor. Listen, it's kind of embarrassing, but the church, something about it, something about the message of Jesus and what the church has done for me and what Jesus means in my life, and what Jesus means, more importantly, for the world. Something about it stuck, and something about it was unwavering. Through all the ups and downs of my life, I've been able to give thanks to God for all of my blessings and to cling to the message of hope and love and redemption in my lowest points. And so here I am, this product of the church at its best, and I'm facing something, and you're facing it too, because here's the truth, is that I may be the church at its best hopes and dreams, even though that makes me feel kind of hokey. And yes, I'm so happy to be a part of a church community that loves church growth and is fostering it in innovative ways. But the truth of the matter is that we're in a time that we have entered in the United States where more than 50% of folks find themselves outside a church organization. More than 50% of Americans are no longer a part of a church. And it's the first time in recent history where this has happened. In fact, in the 1970s, it was more like 70 to 80% of people found themselves as members of a church. It's a pretty steep decline in a fairly short amount of time. And so as we sit and we face this, we remember the teachings in the gospel. We remember Jesus saying, "Go and make disciples." For those of us who have been impacted and empowered by the church and the message of Jesus Christ, we remember these words. And sometimes, if you're like me, I sit and I go, I don't know what to do with this. Jesus has made such an impact in my life, and I see the impact of Christ in the world. I see that, and I want everyone to know about the good works of Jesus Christ. And I sit and I face what seems like an impossible task. How do we go and make disciples? Well, here in my own life, I've chosen to live that out by going to seminary and hoping to serve the church and hoping to meet people and tell the story of Jesus Christ. Well, that's not possible or not even wanted for everyone to serve the church in that way, but we can all share the gospel. I think of the songwriter Ann Wilson. She writes this delightful song, and it's called "Let Me Tell You About My Jesus," where she talks about all of the ways that Jesus has made an impact in her life. And she says, "Let me tell you about my Jesus. When you're lost and you're weary, when you're at the end of your rope, let me tell you about my Jesus." And yet, there are still other ways that we can share the gospel. Yes, you could go on to go to seminary like me or Pastor Hans or Pastor Angie or any pastor you know. You could go on and learn what it's like to build a sermon. You could learn all about the ins and outs of the Bible and the history of Christianity. You could learn all about those and then go and serve the church. That's great. You could become a songwriter like Ann Wilson and write lovely lyrics that go to beautiful tunes that tell the story of the gospel. And yet, there are other ways to tell the gospel, and they're important. They're important ways. And the first and foremost is that we love our neighbors. We love the people around us. The easiest way, and the best way, I would argue, to share the gospel of Jesus Christ is to go and connect with our neighbors, build community with them, hold them when they're hurting, celebrate with them when they're celebrating, and remind them of the presence of God through every moment. In fact, I think that is the best way to share the gospel and to get to know our teacher a little bit better, who lets us know that making disciples is one of our biggest commissions. Thanks for joining us on the Daily Dose today. We're glad that you tuned in, and we hope to see you again real soon. Happy back to school, y'all.